Will the Las Vegas Raiders finally play some starters in preseason? Tua Tagovailoa of the Dolphins has said that he wants to play in this upcoming game. The Dolphins did not play Tua or Tyreek Hill against the Buccaneers last week, and the Raiders have yet to play Davante Adams or Derek Carr. Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs played in preseason just last week, so will the Raiders maybe play Derek Carr? Josh McDaniels left it ambiguous as to who the starters even are.
Use that as a chance to get their starters out there for prolonged period of time. Is that under consideration for you guys going into Miami?
Again, we haven't really said like we have this group's the starters and so we're just kind of in a competition mode still.
And don't even get me started with how annoying this game is going to be, because we have Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Dolphins, and we also have Josh McDaniels, head coach of the Raiders. McDaniels, man, this is going to confuse the hell out of me. So could Derek Carr play? The guy hasn't played in preseason since 2019, and in 2019, Derek Carr had 2 pass attempts. That's all the dude did. But hey, Tom Brady's always played in preseason. He played last year in preseason in New England. He consistently played preseason. In 2019, while Josh McDaniels and Brady were both there in New England, Tom Brady actually had 12 pass attempts in the 3rd game of preseason. That's the only game of preseason he played with New England in 2019, and the Raiders are entering their 3rd preseason game, so maybe the timing is just right for Derek Carr to hit the field and take some snaps. And I know the game is going to be blacked out in a few areas, so make sure you watch the game live with us this Saturday. We'll be doing live play-by-play and reaction, so you know exactly what's going on during the game. We're going to discuss some of the most important things to watch in this upcoming preseason game, and I believe it all starts with the right tackle position.
With the 238th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Thayer Munford, offensive tackle, Ohio State.
Thayer Munford, the 7th round pick out of Ohio State, has been making his case to be the starting right tackle for the Raiders. And if you're a Raiders fan, you know that this is the biggest question mark on the whole entire offense. This is the one position that we don't really quite have solidified. We don't know if we can be really confident in who's there in right tackle as of right now. Alex Leatherwood hasn't looked spectacular, and it's made this position a question mark. Now, what has happened in preseason so far? Now, because Brandon Parker has been injured, he's not going to compete in this upcoming preseason game. We don't know the exact timetable on when he's returning, but he has not been placed on IR. And if he was going to be placed on IR, you know the Raiders would do it quick, because then that frees up a roster spot that you can utilize. So Thayer Munford has played 62 snaps so far in preseason. All of them have been at the right tackle position. Jermaine Illuminor has been coming into the mix, but has only played 11 snaps at right tackle and then 48 snaps at the left tackle position, and along with 14 snaps at right guard. So between Munford and Illuminor, you definitely have Munford having less snaps than Illuminor, but Illuminor having less snaps at that right tackle position. It looks like Josh McDaniels and Coach Brasillo are trying to cross-train Illuminor to make him the swing tackle in case Brandon Parker's not available. And then you have Alex Leatherwood playing 64 snaps in preseason so far. All of them have been at right tackle. That is only 2 snaps more than Thayer Munford. So it looks like the coaching staff has kind of narrowed it down between these 2 players, Munford and Leatherwood. Whoa, hold up. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel for more lit Raiders content. And yes, Munford did look good in that game against the Vikings, but he was not going up against some starters. We really need to see how this guy will look against some first-team players. So hopefully the Dolphins play some starters on defense, and we could really test out and see Munford, Leatherwood, who's going to be the guy. And we know the Raiders haven't really played any starters on the defensive line. You've seen Malcolm Koonce, Gary Green, who's recently been released, to Sean Bauer out there on the defensive line, along with the rookies. Matthew Butler, he made a lot of plays last game, but still the interior defensive line clearly had tons of trouble. And that was when Matthew Butler was out there. That was when the rookie Neil Farrell Jr. was out there as well. So we do need to see some improvement in this interior defensive line. Kyle Pecco made some plays, but he also had some really negative plays. When you take a look at the film, the question will be, will the Raiders try to get John Jonathan Hankins and Bilal Nichols out there. These guys, yes, are the starters, the projected starters on paper, but they've recently come back from the PUP list. They've been out of service for some time. Maybe Josh McDaniels and Patrick Graham will want to see how these guys look on the field, live reps against an opposing team. But keep in mind, the Raiders are also scrimmaging against the New England Patriots next week. Let's hope there's no crazy fights, because the Patriots have been just duking it out with the Carolina Panthers. But hey, I think Max Crosby is ready for some fights. He almost fought Dylan Parham last week. Billings has been out there as well. He's looked good, and he kind of has moved up in the depth chart now that Vernon Butler has been released by the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm interested to see who's going to make us look good here. Who's going to step up against the run, because we got straight up gashed against the Minnesota Vikings. This is also a huge game for Amik Robertson. Amik Robertson is one of the few picks left from the 2020 draft. You know, it's Ruggs, Arnett, Tanner Muse, Lynn Bowden, all kinds of characters who are no longer on this team. We just have John Simpson and Amik Robertson from the 2020 draft. So we really need Amik Robertson to step up so we could salvage the 2020 draft class. And he kind of has a little bit of tough competition now that Trayvon Mullen's back in the mix. It's going to be a little tough to see if he could make this 53-man roster, because you got Sam Webb closing in. Chris Jones, the veteran, was brought in too to compete at the cornerback position. And Bryce Cosby, yes, he's kind of at safety, but mainly in the slot corner position. He has a role along with Darius Phillips. So Amik Robertson, now that we got our top 4 cornerbacks, really needs to step up to kind of be that 5th, maybe that 6th cornerback. If I had to project today, I would say Darius Phillips and Amik Robertson are a little higher on the depth chart. You've seen Chris Jones play a lot of snaps and perform very well. Maybe he's moving up in the eyes of the coaching staff. Time will tell, but Amik Robertson really didn't step on the field in preseason until the Minnesota Vikings game. And we've heard positive reports that he looked good in camp. I think he was even running with the first team in minicamp earlier this year. So let's see if Amik Robertson could step up and really be a critical depth piece for the Raiders this year. The running back position is kind of confusing. Josh Jacobs was not featured in this last game, but he was featured in the first, and really he's been kind of absent from practice. So we don't know the status of what's going on with him. Maybe there's an undisclosed injury. However, Kenyon Drake has had some attempts in both games. The first game he did look a little banged up, and so maybe Josh McDaniels wanted to get him some snaps in the second game because maybe they didn't get enough looks in the first game. But this guy has been coming with the 2s and the 3s. Zamir White started the last game at running back with the second string, and you saw Kenyon Drake out there a little bit more with the third string. So who knows? Maybe Josh McDaniels is trying to ignite some fire in Drake. But I started watching some games. I started watching, Kenyon Drake with the Dolphins, with the Cardinals, and this guy is still a great player. And I think as time goes on, he's going to solidify his role as the number 2 running back on this team, and quite possibly the receiving back on this team, with Brandon Bolden being sort of the backup veteran mentor in the receiving game. And also you have Zamir White kind of spelling Josh Jacobs. So on paper, when you look at this running back room before the first preseason game, I think intuitively we kind of all thought it was going to be Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, Brandon Bolden, and Zamir White. Bolden the backup for Drake, Zamir White the backup for Jacobs. And now things have gone confusing because, Austin Walter, not Andrew Walter, has looked really good in preseason. Britton Brown had the most attempts last game, so Josh McDaniels really wants to find out about this guy. And then you have all these positive reports about Amir Abdullah in camp. He didn't play last preseason game, even though he was healthy, but Drake did. So I am curious as to who does not play. Who does not play in this third preseason game, I think will tell you who's high on the depth chart. If we see Amir Abdullah sit out again and Kenyon Drake continue to play in this third preseason game, then I think you have to assume that Abdullah is higher on the depth chart. And after the release of Demarcus Robinson, this receiving core has kind of become more clear. We kind of understand exactly who the top 5 guys are. It's going to be Devontae Renfro, obviously, with Keelan Cole. Then you got Mac Hollins and Tyron Johnson. And these 3 different receivers kind of have different styles. I view Mac Hollins as kind of a backup for Devontae Adams. Maybe you got Keelan Cole as the backup for Hunter Renfro. And then you have, Tyron Johnson, this kind of speedy, deep threat type of guy who can sort of do things a little bit different than any of the other receivers on this whole entire team. So unique receiving core. The question will be, is there going to be a 6th spot for this receiving core? Who's going to be that guy? Is DJ Turner going to impress enough again to kind of win that 6th receiving spot, beating out and standing clear and above Dylan Stoner, Justin Hall, and Isaiah Zuber? That's quite possible. Isaiah Zuber, USFL, there's been some hype there, but I think DJ Turner is already ahead of these guys. And if he just repeats the same performance he did last week, the question will be, will the Raiders allocate 6 spots for the wide receiver position? We know some teams and a lot of teams only do 5. And if that's the case, I think DJ Turner ends up being the odd man out, but hopefully he can impress enough in this game to make the final 53. So I got two questions for you, Raider Nation. Do you want to see Derek Carr play? Let me know. And which player are you most excited about in this week 3 preseason game? Hey, I hope to see you on the live tomorrow, Saturday at 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern time on YouTube. Turn on notifications. We'll be doing live play-by-play and reaction. Hey, my name is WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.